The Warzone meta is completely up in the air at the moment, so today we're going to have a look at what the pro players are running in their loadouts in order to dominate the competition. Hey everyone, it's FourEyes or Dave here. Welcome back to another video in a slightly new location to last time. If you guys have been following me, you'll know that in my update video I did recently, I've actually moved into a new house. This is my room at the moment. Kind of bare at the moment, not much going on, but hopefully soon we will have it looking awesome when we've ripped out these wardrobes behind me. But anyway, on to the main point of this video. Today we are taking a look at what loadouts the pros are running right now in tournaments and just in general public matches to stay on top of the competition. Right now, the meta isn't really too well defined. You know, we've come out of a couple of pretty hard metas, you know, the DMR, the AUG, I mean, even before that, just things like the Kilo. As always, if you do like this video and find it informative, then subscribe down below to get your instant notifications every single time I upload a new video. And also follow me on Twitter, where I'm trying to be more consistent posting stuff on there. I'm getting back into a schedule, having moved into my house. It's been a bit mad, but I think I'm finally back. So without further ado, let's jump into our first pro loadout. And this one is going to be from Aydan, who is an absolute beast on the sticks. People can say anything they want about controller players. Say, oh, aim assist is for noobs. It makes it too easy to play. I can personally say that me trying to play on a controller, it's not fun. I used to be really good on a controller back in like Black Ops 2, playing league play and stuff, but I've tried to play Warzone on a PS5 and on a PS4, and my God, it's not happening. I'm sticking to keyboard and mouse because I can do a lot more on that. But Aydan's been a beast since Fortnite, when he was kind of one of those first pros, I believe, actually using the controller and just doing bits, and then he's doing insane in Warzone as well. So this is the class that he's been running most recently. The AMAX is his primary weapon of choice, and spoiler alert, it's the primary weapon of choice for a lot of players still. It's been nerfed, sort of, but like, it's still the AMAX. It's still so strong at range, and if you can control that recoil, it does have recoil, you know, it's not just overpowered, it's not just a beamer, but if you can control that recoil, you can do absolute work with it. So let's go through the attachments that he's running. Pretty standard things here, and you're going to see this on all the AMAXs that I show in this video, so I'm only going to go through it once. But monolithic suppressor for the sound suppression and the damage range. There's no reason to not run this on all the Modern Warfare guns, basically. All these other ones are just like pointless unless you could potentially go for the compensator if you just want to be an absolute crackhead and just like not be, and just be on everyone's map and just kill everyone. But monolithic suppressor, damage range, sound suppression, you can't really beat that. The Zodiac barrel is the only barrel on the AMX that gives you the damage range and your bullet velocity as well as recoil control. The other two are more for like fast AMAXs, which really isn't a thing meta-wise. Could be fun to use as maybe like an SMG AMAX, but Zodiac barrel gives you everything you need for a beaming long-range AR. The optic is going to be the VLK 3x optic, and typically Aydan is running it with the T-pose reticle. Some people will prefer the default, so if you don't have the T-pose and you're thinking, oh my God, like I need to unlock this because it makes the gun better. It doesn't, it's personal preference, and the default one is very good anyway, but Aydan is running the T-pose most of the time. And, oh, we've backed out of the class. Let's go back in. Commando foregrip for the underbarrel, giving you recoil stabilization, so reducing that horizontal bounce. You don't need something like the Merc foregrip, which is giving you the recoil control, which is the vertical recoil, because you can just pull down on your mouse, you can just pull down on your stick a bit, and you'll be fine. Like, yes, the gun kicks a decent amount, but you can control that. The horizontal bounce, though, that's random. You can't control that. So Commando foregrip has to be run to keep yourself on track when you're shooting enemies at range. And then finally, the 45 round mags, just to give you a couple more bullets. You know, adding a bit more ammo to your gun is never going to be a bad thing in Warzone. Just allows you to have a bit more control in fights. You don't have to reload as much. It's pretty important. It's pretty standard. For his secondary, he's running the MAC-10. The MAC-10 has never left the meta since it was added to the game. It still is awesome. It has a bunch of different builds actually right now, and you'll see there's a couple of people on this list that I'm doing today who are running the MAC-10, and they all run it differently, which is really awesome because I love to see that. Not only have we got actually quite a decent range of secondaries being used, but even the guns themselves are being run with different loadouts for different kind of feels, different situations, and it's awesome. So what I will say is that Aydan's gun here is Before I jump into it, I'll describe it as it's pretty snappy, but it still manages to do decently at that kind of mid-range, which is, it's important. You know, this gun can do well up close, but it can also, it can cover, like, you know, those kind of 20-meter ranges. It doesn't just completely fall off. For an SMG, that's pretty useful. So let's start off with the sound suppressor. He's actually using the sound suppressor over the agency suppressor. The sound suppressor got changed recently. It got basically a load of different unique, useful things added to its pros, namely the ADS speed and the sprint to fire speed, as opposed to what the agency suppressor gives you, which is the vertical recoil control and the effective damage range. It really makes sense to run the sound suppressor on SMGs. Yes, this does pull back some of your damage range, but it just makes the gun feel so much more snappy, especially when you're running this with other attachments that reduce your ADS speed, and it just keeps the gun feeling like a fast-moving SMG, and I love it. So sound suppressor is what he's running there. He's running the Task Force barrel, which basically just gives your gun damage. That's the simplest way. It also gives you strafe speed, which is massively important on an SMG. It does add to your vertical and horizontal recoil control, but we're using this gun at pretty close range, so it doesn't matter too much. It also just doesn't add that much. It's not too much of an issue. You just get used to using it, and it means your gun is just more reliable at those kind of the ranges when it comes to damage. SOF target designator is the laser he's using, giving you effective damage range and hipfire accuracy. So this gun has solid hipfire accuracy. If someone comes face to face with you, you're running around Superstore, someone appears right in front of you, don't try an ADS and shoot them. I've done that so many times. I'm just like, I default to just right clicking and trying to like aim. No, just hipfire spray, because you will kill them. This thing has like the smallest hipfire when you're running something like the SOF target designator. So little tip there, focus on using hipfire more. Stock is going to be the Raider stock. It does pull away some of the hipfire accuracy, so that's kind of why we're running the SOF target designator. I can't even say the word SOF target designator. So that gives you hipfire accuracy. This takes away a bit of it, but it gives you ADS firing movement speed, aim walking movement speed, and sprint to fire time, all incredibly useful things on a fast-moving SMG. And finally, the Stanag 53 round drum, which gives you a bit more ammo capacity, really. You used to run the fast mag, but this really, really hurts your ADS speed now. So instead, everyone's running this 53 round drum, gives you a hell of a lot more rounds than you start off with, and it allows you to challenge multiple members of a squad in a team and do really well. And I really like this Mac 10. This one's a very reliable Mac 10, you know. It's not kind of really aggressive or really passive. It's a do-it-all Mac 10, so I'd really recommend this to anyone who's jumping in and wants an SMG to use. Now, just to quickly run through his perks, he's running EOD, Overkill, and Amped. Overkill and Amped are pretty standard, obviously, for you, because you need Overkill to get your two guns, and Amped is really important for switching between the two guns. The perks change a little bit depending on the player, but he's running EOD just so he doesn't get kind of randomly semtexed or randomly blown up by something. It's not fun. Just take that out of the game so that you can survive grenades being thrown at you, simply. And then his lethal is a Semtex, just probably the most solid kind of ranged, like throwing equipment, just very lethal. If you stick someone with it, they're absolutely fucked. And if you get it near an enemy or you manage to stick it on a vehicle, it does solid damage as well. And then the tactical is his heartbeat sensor. So he's not a stun player, he's running the heartbeat sensor, giving you so much information, especially if you get your class early before people are running Ghost. It just gives you so much info as you push buildings. Really, really useful. Okay, let's fly through these next classes. Next up is going to be Symfuhny. Now, Symfuhny has a pretty interesting loadout, actually. He's one of the people who has adopted to using the Ram 7. So the Ram 7 is kind of climbing up, has been for a long time. It's been an underrated gun for ages, and it's only just, I would say, fairly recently really come to the forefront. It's typically been used as like a sniper support mid-range AR, but people are just building this gun as a long-range gun, and it's doing work. It has really good bullet velocity, really good fire rate, a little bit harder to control than the AMAX, and the AMAX is already pretty hard to control, but the Ram 7 is interesting. So here's Ram 7. I'm going to rush through it because it's very similar to the AMAX. We've got the mono suppressor, we've got the VLK optic, we've got the commando foregrip. The ammunition is the 50 round. It's the only ammunition you can take on the Ram 7, but it just gives you a bit more. And then the barrel is the FSS Ranger. I've seen a couple of people who can actually alter this build, and they run the Eclipse barrel. Basically what that does is it allows your gun to, you move a little bit faster with this gun, but you lose out on the recoil control that Ranger gives you. I wouldn't recommend it. Some people seem to really swear by this thing. Potentially, if you're running a different optic, you're running maybe like a closer range optic and you're running it like a sniper support, you could do that. But if you're running it as a long range gun, this is just overall going to be the best thing you can get. That FSS Ranger barrel really just extending your damage range and you're getting you better bullet velocity whilst also reducing the decently high recoil that this gun has. Really fun gun to use. If you're getting bored of the AMAX, try the RAM. It's good fun. His secondary is the MAC-10, but a very different MAC-10 to what we just saw Aydan running. What Symfuhny is running is a very, very, very aggressive MAC-10. So we've got the agency suppressor. Technically, I think the sound suppressor could be used here because, you know, you're getting that ADS and sprint to fire time to give you even crazier kind of aggressiveness, but he's opting for the one which gives you vertical recoil control and a bit of effective damage range. I think that's kind of to offset the fact that he's running other aggressive, like really aggressive attachments, so you don't need to put all your eggs in one basket, and the agency suppressor just gives you a bit more security at range, especially with the other attachments that he's running. So let's jump in and have a look at what those are. Task Force, same as what Aydan was running, it's just a one-size-fits-all attachment, especially for the MAC-10. He's running the Tiger Team Spotlight in combination with the Striker Grip. So what both of these guns give is movement speed. I've used this MAC-10 and it is so fun to use. You're so quick running around. Just as a point, if you look at the grips and you look at the patrol grip, which gives you sprinting move speed, the move speed that the Striker Grip gives is basically like a base move speed, and so your sprint speed on top of that increases anyway. So the Striker Grip giving you move speed and hip fire accuracy for literally no cons makes this a hip fire beast. You're just running into buildings, just spraying, just from the hip, spraying from the hip, absolutely killing people. It's really, really fun to use. The Tiger Team Spotlight also gives you a bit of aim walking movement speed, probably not that useful. Really, the reason we're using this is for that movement speed and just zooming around the map. Really, really fun gun to use. Feels different to use from the previous MAC-10. Try both out, see what works for you. The perks, EOD Overkill Amped, same as before. And the lethal is the Thermite, which is a good gun for locking, a good lethal for locking down certain areas if you think there's someone there. It kind of works like a Semtex, but it's that damage over time. If you're being chased, you can Thermite behind you and they can't really get through an area as easily, and it might give you an advantage in the fight. It's a very fun, aggressive lethal to use. It goes very well with this class being very aggressive. And then the tactical is the Stun Grenade, which just further adds to that aggressiveness that this loadout brings. So I'm really liking this class. It's one of the ones I'm running around with a lot at the moment because, you know, I like to use pro classes and try them out, but Symfuhny is pretty cracked, and he's showing it with this class. So next up is Huskerrs. So Huskerrs he's a pretty smart player. He's a smart control player. He's a decent all-rounder. He's been doing really, really insane in Warzone basically since its release. He's someone who I've seen basically from the start, like popping off. And he has a very similar class to what I showed you with Aydan earlier. So he is running the AMAX with the standard attachments. The attachments never change for the AMAX. They are always the same. So that's what he's running. That's what he's running there. And then his MAC-10 is once again pretty much exactly the same as Aydan's, but the only difference, and this is why I wanted to add Huskerrs to this, just to point this out, is that he is running the agency suppressor rather than the sound suppressor. So I would say that he plays a little bit more controlled. You know, he doesn't need that sound suppressor. He doesn't want to just like go crazy. He's pre-aiming a lot more, even when he's pushing into buildings and stuff, so he doesn't need the ADS speed and the sprint fire time. He just wants something that's reliable, and that's what the agency suppressor really is. It's just a reliable attachment. It's going to mean that your gun is going to do what you want it to do. It's not going to be insanely quick, but it's going to kill people, which at the end of the day is very important. So there's going to be a debate here, sound suppressor versus agency suppressor, across basically all the Cold War guns right now, and get involved in the discussion and have your opinion on it, but yeah, that's the main difference here. That's the two guns, very, very quickly. The perks are exactly the same as well, EOD, Overkill, and Amped. Lethal is going to be a Semtex, and then Tactical, I've seen him mix between the stun and the heartbeat sensor. As I said, he's an all-round player, and he shows it with kind of what he's running on his builds. So that's the Huskerrs Loadout. Next up, we've got a personal favorite of mine, IceManIsaac. I stumbled across IceManIsaac on YouTube probably about half a year ago, when his kind of Warzone content was popping. Not to say his Warzone content isn't popping now, but like it was popping up on my feed a lot, and I hadn't seen him before. And his content's awesome, and he makes really, really good like actual solo YouTube content, something which I think actually a lot of pros don't do. A lot of pros just post like highlights of games or like, here's the loadout I'm using kind of thing. Whereas, you know, IceManIsaac, he has the Warzone Academy series. Is it Warzone Academy? Yeah, Warzone Academy series. He does stuff on TikTok as well, just like little guide videos. Lots of really, really interesting tips, but he's also really, really good at the game, and he's playing in tournaments at the moment and doing really well. And he has an interesting build, which I wanted to show you guys, and it's something which I've actually been running. I didn't realize that Isaac was running this, but I've been using this recently in some games, and I've been really enjoying it, so it's fun that it kind of lines up nicely. So, AMAX is his primary. I'm not going to go through the attachments again. It's the AMAX. It's been nerfed. No, everyone's still using it. But his secondary that he's been running recently is the AK-74U. This is a gun which no one's using, but it's really, really strong. This gun feels like what the Bullfrog was like a couple of patches back. The Bullfrog's been nerfed decently now. I can't exactly remember how, but it seems like it's just declined. And the 74U is kind of doing what that did. It's not the most aggressive gun, and it's not this kind of sniper support SMG. It sits nicely in the middle. It's a really good all-rounder that just feels like it has a punch because it's an AK. AKs, both the AR and the SMG variants, just have this punch to them that it hurts. So let me show you what they're running on it. So sound suppressor, so he's running that because he wants to get the ADS and the sprint to fire time. I'm really on the sound suppressor hype train instead of the GRU suppressor or the agency suppressor for the SMGs at the moment. It just feels like it turns the gun into a different gun, and well, it turns it into what I think it should be. It's an SMG. It's meant to be aggressive. So I'm really liking the sound suppressor too. Task Force barrel, similar to the MAC-10, it's very much a one-size-fits-all attachment for SMGs because the vertical and horizontal recoil control it gives you is not too much of an issue whilst giving you loads of great pros. His laser that he's using is the KGB target designator, which is effective damage range and hip fire accuracy. So that's very similar to the SOF target designator that was being run on the MAC-10 earlier. Makes sense. Just giving you a much more reliable gun at that kind of mid to close range. The stock is the KGB skeletal stock, which is basically the same as the Raider stock from earlier, giving you everything you want from an SMG. And then the ammunition is the 50-round drum. So what's very interesting here is that we've got a gun that is, I'm pretty sure, exactly the same as the MAC-10 that like Aydan was using earlier, but it's just all those attachments moved over to the 74U. And this gun feels nice. This is one that you should really try out. He was running it in the tournament the other day. I was watching highlights of it, and it looked good. So definitely give this thing a shot. Perks, he's using EOD, Overkill, and Amped. And then for his lethal, he's running the throwing knife. I think for a little bit of fun, it also allows you to finish down people really quick. If you're someone who finds himself thirsting for a lot of down people, I do it all the time because it's really fun. You know, you want to actually just finish that kill. The throwing knife is that one time, it's kind of a thing which a lot of pros run. I wouldn't crazy recommend it. I would honestly recommend running, you know, just probably a Semtex most of the time or a Thermite. But he's running the throwing knife, and so it's in the video. And then his tactical is the heartbeat sensor. You know, he's not running around with the stuns. He likes running around with the heartbeat sensor. He's a smart as fuck player, and he shows it. And using the heartbeat sensor allows you to make really well-informed plays that you're not able to make without a heartbeat sensor. I'm really liking this class. The 74U is definitely something which you guys need to try out. And the final pro on the list in this video today is going to be Jukeyz. So I wanted to add in a non-American pro. So Jukeyz, I've been seeing a lot of his stuff. Once again, kind of since Warzone started popping off decently in the kind of competitive space. I've seen him just doing bits. He's a UK player. It's nice to see some UK representatives. There's quite a few of them actually at the moment that I've seen doing well in tournaments. It's awesome to see. But anyway, the class that he's running, primary weapon, AMAX. Woohoo! We've managed to have 4 out of 5 of the classes today have AMAX in. And if you look at most pros, they're still running the AMAX, and they're going to keep running it. The Ram 7 is, as I said, it's creeping up, but the AMAX is still the bloody AMAX. And it's so difficult to find a reason not to use it. So Yeah, AMAX is still there. And his secondary, similar to IceManIsaac, but a slight bit different. He's using the AK-47 as a secondary. So the AR version, not the 74U, the AK-47. These are the attachments that he's running on it. And there'll be the initial thing that you'll notice here, and you'll think, oh my god, this is like unheard of, you can't do this. He doesn't have a suppressor. I've been running around with this AK-47, and this is really a class for when you're done with all the bullshit, and you're just like, I'm going to go and kill everyone in this game. I'm going to just run at you, and I'm going to absolutely destroy you before you have a chance. You don't care about appearing on the map. You're like, come on, come to me, come to me. It's a lot of fun. Let's go through the attachments. The barrel is the Spetsnaz RPK barrel. It's essentially the Task Force barrel. It makes sense on a close-range gun. I've already explained loads in this video why, but the Spetsnaz RPK barrel basically does what the Task Force barrel does. The Tiger Team Spotlight, which gives you the movement speed, as well as the aim walking movement speed. So this is the same as what Symfuhny was running on his Mac 10. It just turns an AR into a much faster moving gun at base level. Obviously, when you're running an AR, you're going to be moving slower than you will with an SMG, so I find that Tiger Team Spotlight is basically necessary for running a gun like the AK as a close-range SMG-style weapon. The stock is the KGB Skeletal stock, basically the same as the Raider stock from earlier, giving you all those stats that just make the gun much more snappy. Ammunition is the 45-round mag. There's a bunch of other ones you could use here, but the 45 round is the only one that doesn't reduce your ADS speed. And when you're running this not as a hip fire gun, this is a ADS aggressive gun. The Bakelite 60 round, it gives you that extra 15 rounds, but you're losing ADS time, and you don't want to do that. So the 45 round is basically all you can do, apart from if you potentially want to run the taped mags and get some reload quickness. But it's not as reliable as just having more ammo in the gun to start with. And then finally, because we're not running the suppressor, instead, we're running the Serpent Grip for even better ADS time. Once again, this is an AR. And ARs scope in and just do everything a bit slower than SMGs, apart from strafing and like shooting strafing, because the stats don't make any sense to that. But having this Serpent Grip on the gun makes it so snappy. So snappy. You are just ADS'd before enemies can do anything. Now, if in your brain you're like, I cannot play without a suppressor, I have to run a suppressor, I have to run a suppressor, then take off the Serpent Grip and chuck on the suppressor. Or the GRU suppressor, but I'd prefer just the normal suppressor so we keep our ADS speed. That would be what I would say. But instead, he's running the Serpent Grip, he's running around, he's just destroying people, he doesn't care if he's on the map. That's just how he wants to play. And that's the class that he's using. Perks, double time. He's not using AOD. He's still using double time for that real aggressive style, allowing you to just continue sprinting at people like it's nothing. And then overkill and amped. He's actually running C4. I feel like this is probably due to the prevalence at the moment of things like the Berthas and just general vehicles seem to just be like people seem to be in so many vehicles again. And yes, the C4 doesn't have as far of a chuck range, but if someone's driving you with a vehicle and you're good with the C4, you can do insane things with it still. It's still the best thing to take out vehicles. So I assume that's why he's running it. It did confuse me a little bit, but that's my only real reasoning I can have for him doing it. And then finally, the tactical being the heartbeat sensor. So most people are still running the heartbeats. It's an overall more reliable tactical than the stun grenades. The stun grenades are fun, especially if you're playing solos and you just stun grenade someone, it's like it instantly wins a 1v1. But when you're playing in those squad modes, you know, you could stun one person and then you don't stun another person and then they kill you, whereas the heartbeat's always there in your pocket. It doesn't have a maximum amount of uses, and it just does everything you need it to do. So, tactical, heartbeat sensor. And that is all of the classes for today. So 5 pros, 5 loadouts, kind of shows you a decent amount of the range of what's being used in the meta right now. Honestly, the meta is actually changing quite rapidly at the moment. The patch notes are really awesome, so thank you to Raven Software for getting their shit together, because honestly, the patch notes a while back were awful. They didn't explain anything about what changed, and the stuff that did change didn't make any sense. We had these metas that were really hard ingrained, and just nothing was going right. But right now, the game feels fun. There's a lot of different ways you can play it, And that's awesome. I didn't even cover anyone today who's running a sniper loadout. So if you want to see some sniper loadouts from some other pros, then leave a like on the video, subscribe for more, and I'll make another one of these covering some different pros and some different loadouts. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. I will catch you guys in my next video. Bye-bye.